What is up? My name is Zach, and I am coming to you today with a video on the top 2021 NFL free agents, where I think they might end up, and some fantasy implications with it. Now, there are a few on this list that I think you might be a bit shocked to where they end up, so you will not want to miss them, so stick around to the very end. Before we get into it, though, I would greatly appreciate if you could just punch that subscribe button down below. Maybe give it a nice, plow driver to the face or a punch to the face if you enjoy this content and you want to see more of it. Okay, with all that said and done, grab some sticky notes because it's about to get educational up in here. Okay, so to start us off in this video, I'm going to go give a list of 5 top free agents for this video, and then we're going to discuss some teams that are needy in certain positions, and then we will see if we can make the good old farmers only match between the team and those players. Now, there are a lot of top free agents this offseason, so in this video, I'm only going to go through 5 of them. I'm going to make more videos throughout this offseason with more, so stick around, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of those. So our first free agent in 2021 on this list is going to be Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. Jones is not a guarantee to stay in Green Bay, as they just spent some high draft capital on A.J. Dillon, and Jamal Williams is also going to be out of his contract, so it'll be a lot cheaper to just re-sign him instead of Aaron Jones. I personally would love if the Packers could actually keep Aaron Jones and let go of Jamal Williams, but we're going to just assume in this scenario that Jones did not return to them. Now, Jones has been a good back for the Packers in his last 4 seasons, averaging over 5 yards a carry on the ground. He also split work with Jamal Williams and was never really given a true workhorse role. We saw his ceiling last season when he had 19 touchdowns and his first 1,000-yard rushing season, and he also eclipsed 1,000 rushing yards this past season. Now, if he were given the keys to a full running back workload where he didn't have to split carries as much, he could be explosive and lethal for a team. Just from a standpoint of some running back needy teams that we see, Aaron Jones would probably be on the higher end of running backs, where a team is more in like win now mode, might see it as necessary to pay the price for him, or we could see a team try and get him that just has a lot of cap space and would decide to get him. With that being said, I could see him going to either the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, or the New York Jets. With the Jets and the Patriots, both are considered rebuilding, less so the Patriots than the Jets, but neither are win now material. Both, however, in the top 5 among cap space leaders in 2021, so both could definitely afford to spend the money to get Aaron Jones. The Jets might want to add a competent back behind Sam Darnold to take off the pressure and to shore up some of their questionable other positions. The Patriots are starting to see an emergence with Damian Harris, but he is more of a downhill runner, so adding Aaron Jones could provide that elusiveness and pass catching ability that could help their running back room become more efficient instead of having, James White, Rex Burkhead, Sony Michel, and Damian Harris. Lastly, the Miami Dolphins could be a contender. The Dolphins did very well in 2020 and are only on the trend upward right now. The Dolphins do fall within the top 10 cap space leaders in 2021, so they definitely could afford Aaron Jones, and it would be a great fit for sure, and would really only help their case in winning now. Now, Myles Gaskin did show great ability in 2020, however, but we did see that when he did go down with an injury, the Dolphins didn't really know what to do at the running back position. I think if the Dolphins went with Aaron Jones, it could be a good 1-2 punch between Aaron Jones and Gaskin, to where they would constantly have a good, fresh running back. All right, moving on to our next free agent on the list, we're going to talk about Allen Robinson. Robinson has suffered through mediocre QB play through his entire career, and yet he is still one of the best receivers in the league. He has averaged over the course of his career 13.1 yards per reception, so assuming you were in a PPR league and he only had like 4 receptions in a game, that would still be close to 10 fantasy points for you, and that would be his floor. Robinson is a dynamic and elite receiver and could really benefit a team with his skill set. Robinson could be the same as Aaron Jones, where he is able to go to either a win now team or just a team with a big cap space. But with the awful QBs that he has played with, I could see him trying to strike a deal with a team that is actually a playoff contender. Now, yes, the Bears did make playoffs in 2020, but really that was just the Saints getting a first round bye. So some teams that I could see him go to, and I don't really see this one happening because they're one of the lowest teams in terms of cap space, and we haven't seen them try and grow in the receiver position in the past years, but it's the Green Bay Packers. Now, there have been a lot of talks with Aaron Rodgers wanting to leave, and if Aaron Jones doesn't return, they might have the money to actually make something happen for Allen Robinson. This would probably be the best destination for Robinson, as it would be the best QB he has had throwing to him ever. And it would help Rodgers feel like they're actually wanting to invest in his last couple of years to win a Super Bowl with a solid addition at the wide receiver position. Pair Robinson with Devontae Adams, and this would easily be the best receiving duo in the league. However, I don't see this happening, as the Packers have time and time again decided not to get a solid wide receiver too, and Robinson is probably a bit pricier than they would want to do. A more realistic team I could see him go to would be the Washington football team. The Washington football team is just 1 or 2 pieces away from being a scary good team, really. They have Terry McLaurin already as their wide receiver, but nothing much really behind him at the wide receiver position. Add in Allen Robinson and possibly a new QB addition this offseason, and this could actually be a win for both the Washington football team and Allen Robinson, who could see them as a great team going forward. All right, let's talk about another free agent on our list. Next on our list is probably the most notable QB in free agency, and it is Dak Prescott. Prescott has been great for the Cowboys, and yet the Cowboys are not wanting to pay him. With his injury and the awful defensive play by the Cowboys, is actually looking more and more like they are not going to pay him money, and they're just going to let him go. Even the crypt keeper Jerry Jones himself said that they need to pay the players on defense and get that defense shored up before paying any other specific player. So with that said, where does Dak go that is going to be willing to pay? Well, with his injury in 2020, his price tag might actually be a little bit lower, which would be fantastic for a team to get a deal on 2021. There are several QB needy teams, and they all seem to have a decent amount of cap space in 2021. Now, there are a few teams I could see him go to, and honestly, I think it would immediately make each one of them a contender. One of those teams is the Chicago Bears. The Bears barely made playoffs, and that was in large part due to having an easier schedule throughout the season. But the fact that their team is all around good enough to make playoffs, even with bad QB play, means adding Dak would immediately put them in playoff contention and probably beyond. The Bears have Allen Robinson possibly leaving, which would shore up some cap space, and they have competent receivers on their team that not necessarily would replace Robinson, but still could do well. Combine Dak and their receiving core with a good defense, and I could see good things coming out of the signing for the Bears and their ability to compete for top of the NFC North. Another team that could be an interesting signing would be the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts scarily have the second most cap space in 2021. Phillip Rivers already announced his retirement, and the Colts already know from experience that Jacoby Brissett is not going to be their solution, which he will also be a free agent in 2021. Dak would immediately give the Colts a winning season, as they are just coming off a great season with Phillip Rivers at the helm. Replace Rivers with Dak, and you have a Super Bowl team right there. The Colts have the weapons to surround Dak and support him in terms of their up-and-coming receiver, being Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor leading the backfield, and a great defense. Really, if I were the Colts, I would try to make this happen because this would make this team amazing. Lastly, a team that could sign him is the New England Patriots. The Patriots realized that Super Cam is no more, and luckily only signed him to a one-year deal worth barely anything, and this was very smart on their part. The Pats just had their first season in who knows how long where they were not a winning team. Now, adding Dak could bring them back into that winning category, as they have had a competent defense and some decent, I guess, receivers, and maybe they could bring in some better receiving help in the offseason, and then they have Damian Harris in the backfield gaining some traction as well. Now, I would think in order for this to be successful, they really would need to bring in a good receiver for Dak to throw to support him. Now, they have not had consistency at the receiver position, but they do have the fourth most cap space in 2021 to make something happen over the offseason. Of all of these, though, I think the Colts would be the best because that would just probably be the quickest way for them to reach the Super Bowl in 2021. Okay, moving on to another top free agent. Let's talk about the tight end position, okay? Hitting free agency in 2021 is Hunter Henry of the Los Angeles Chargers. In all honesty, I actually see the Chargers just re-signing him, as they seem very high on him and it isn't really a huge hit to them. But let's see if there are other options that we could also see. So I think an obvious one is going to be the New England Patriots until they shore up the tight end position. Since Gronk left, they have not been elite in that category and could really use an athletic and skillful tight end to fill the role. Like we said earlier, the Patriots have one of the bigger cap spaces in 2021 to make this possible, and depending on the QB position for them this offseason, this could be a QB to tight end heaven connection here with the lack of established receivers that the Patriots currently have. Another team on this list is the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have the QB, they have the number one receiver. Some could argue that they have the running backs possibly. So really all they would need now is the tight end, right? Cliff Kingsbury is on the hot seat currently, and who knows, going for a great tight end in Hunter Henry might be what he needs to step into the light and fulfill his destiny to turn the Cardinals around. He has all of the talent he needs, so aside from maybe questionable coaching, all he needs could be this one piece in tight end to fulfill his final form. Another team on our list to include is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks came away from a disappointing loss to the Rams to end the season, and at this point are actually seeming like they're unsure how to get back to the Super Bowl. They have arguably one of the most talented QBs leading them in Russell Wilson, and one of the best receiving duos in the league with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, as well as a pretty decent run game. So maybe the piece that is missing, besides having one of the worst defenses, could be another offensive weapon in Hunter Henry. Sure, they definitely need to shore up some of those pieces on the defense first and foremost, but getting Russell Wilson more weapons never is really a bad thing. On top of that, they have used a combo of Will Disley and Jacob Hollister, and Hunter Henry is better than both of them. Going further, Russell actually likes targeting the tight end position, so giving him a better rounded tight end to take off some of the pressure off him and the receivers could make this offense more potent. Also, Pete Carroll has stated he wants to run the ball more heavily in 2021. Well, guess what? Hunter Henry has been praised by Anthony Lynn and other coaches on his run blocking abilities, so this could really go both ways for Seattle. At the end of the day, I still do think the Chargers will just re-sign him, but it's always fun to speculate, and weirder things have happened. All right, let's get to our last free agent in today's video. Let's talk about Will Fuller. This offseason is loaded with free agent wide receivers, ranging anywhere from the top tier of like Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, to a still very good tier of Will Fuller, all the way down to veterans that no one really wants to sign. Fuller showed really good signs last year for the Texans before being suspended for PED use. He actually played a full healthy 10 games before being suspended and was on track to play 15 of 16 games. Fuller is a burner type receiver, but he does have the skill set to be a wide receiver one for a team when needed. That's evident this past season. Now, injury is always a concern with him, but because of all of his injuries, his price tag would actually probably not be that high. Fuller is probably one of the receivers that teams will be very interested in due to his age of only 26 years old and his lower price tag for the potential of a wide receiver one. Now, I would say there are many teams that will want him, but my most likely teams he could go to would be the Green Bay Packers or the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers, like we said, are in need of wide receiver too, and with their lower cap space, they could push for someone like Will Fuller, who has a lower price tag. The Packers even made a push for a Fuller trade during this past 2020 season, but were unsuccessful, so they could really be a top spot for this offseason. Likewise, the Eagles are really in need of receiver. They're holding on by a thin thread with Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. With Jalen Hurts at QB and new coaching, a rebuild isn't really necessary, and adding a good receiver like Fuller could help cover up some issues, as well as give Hurts a safety valve for him to learn and grow as a QB. Alright, well that is going to do it for today's video on free agent destinations for 2021. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below where you think these players will end up and who you are the most eager to see go in free agency. Now, like I said, I'll be posting more free agent videos on all the glorious free agents this off season coming up, so stay tuned for those and subscribe if you haven't already if you want to see those. But that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.